This is the I'm Possible Project show, where we interview real people who have achieved incredible feats in the face of overwhelming odds, showing that impossible is just a state of mind and that anything is possible. I'm your host, Joshua Rivedal. Today, in episode 29, There Comes a Light, I talk to Elaina J. Martin. Let's jump right in.
Today I'm with Elaina J. Martin, and she is passionate about stomping out the stigma of mental illness. She recently completed a memoir about living with mental illness that she hopes will one day end up in the hands of someone who needs a little hope. She writes the blog Being Beautifully Bipolar at PsychCentral.com and a personal blog at ElainaJ.com. When not writing or trying to snag a literary agent, she is the girlfriend to a charming Navy sailor and is a loving pet parent to 2 big black dogs. And Elaina also happens to be an author in our second I'm Possible book, Changing Minds, Breaking Stigma, Achieving the Impossible. And she writes a brilliant story, and it was a real honor to have you in that book. Elaina, thanks so much for joining me and us today on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Oh, sure. Hopefully. So we have that bio, right? And you wrote that out, and I riffed on it a little bit. But you wear a lot of different hats. You do a lot of different things. Curious, and I'm sure our listeners are or will be, a little bit more about you, about your life, some background, where you've been, where you're going, the Elaina J. Martin experience. Please and thank you.
Absolutely. It makes no sense, rhyme or reason to mental health. So I'd be happy to share with the listeners how that came to be. I was raised a military brat, and if you don't know what that means, it doesn't mean I'm bratty. It just means that one or both of my parents who raised me was in the military. My father was in the Air Force for 21 years. So up through college, he was basically, still in the Air Force. Being a military brat, was raised around the world, literally born in Japan, lived in Germany, lived in England, just all around the world, and continued to travel after college. Worked in New York, worked in Austin, Texas, for a short time worked in California, went out to Nashville, just lived all these different places. I received a degree in fashion design. The thought process was, Elaina wants to be a fashion writer. So how does Elaina get to fashion writing? Well, she learns about design so she can write about how it's all put together. So after that, and I get my degree, and it's all, stars and twinkles, I go up to New York City, the whole $300 in your pocket sort of thing. And I try to get a job in the fashion industry. And there I am, a hostess at an Argentinian restaurant. Somehow, a man I knew that I had interned for, an editor, he tells me about some public relations business, and I get in with them, working on the New York fashion shows, and that goes on through the seasons, meaning September and February. And eventually, I get an interview with the accessories editor at Cosmopolitan magazine. Don't get the job, naturally. And I go home to Oklahoma to lick my wounds. It's just like, this thing is not working out. I keep trying, nothing's working out. And then I get this random call, and it's from this woman, and she's like, hey, got your resume from Lippity-Loo, from Cosmo, and she says, you're really great, and you're from Oklahoma, and I'm from Oklahoma, and you should come out here, or you should come here. And I'm like, but I'm in Oklahoma. And she's like, oh, then never mind. I'm like, give me a week, I'll be there. So she's like, I'll give you a week. So I go. Well, the thing was, it wasn't like a published yet magazine. It was basically what you would call a pilot for TV. A TV, you would call it a pilot. I don't know what you would call this. But anyway, it never came to fruition. And I went and got a job in Austin, Texas, where I wrote, and I was assistant to the editor. And then I started writing more and more until I started writing style stories and doing style shoots. Just fell in love with styling, which is putting the outfits together. And then the OCD and anxiety came in. And I guess they had always been there a bit. Like, all of us can look back with mental illness and kind of see little bits of it in our past. That's when it really kind of came to the worst part of it. Well, the worst it had been yet. And I began self-harming. Basically, it was on my wrist, and I could kind of hide it, I thought, but people were noticing. So it was back to Oklahoma again for recapturing by the parents. So that's the history before the fall. The fall of Elaina Martin.
Let's hear about that. Sounds like a history book lesson.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just so, to me, I know it was a lot, but it's just like, how did you end up like writing about all this mental illness and like you don't even, you didn't study it, you didn't even take a class on it. Like, I've read more on mental illness, I'm sure, than you have to take in school, and lived a hell of a lot more of it. So, but my education definitely doesn't look that way on paper.
One of my thought processes, and this does not substitute for learning or trying to learn or any of that, but what were the first professors? Like, they weren't professors. They were people who had more knowledge than the next person, and at some point somebody awarded them with some letters behind their name. So, I mean, which is good, but I think there's what you've experienced and what you've been through and your opinions and your writing is so valid, and I think it really informs, and it can inform, the way we treat people with mental illness or the kind of programming that we create and that kind of stuff. So this onset of, you said OCD and there's some bipolar going on. Tell me more. Tell me about this fall. Anxiety, yeah.
I'll tell you.
Tell me about this fall.
Yeah, I'll tell you about the bipolar. Yeah. I'll tell you about what I call the fall. The OCD and anxiety. Okay, so the OCD began, it probably began both around the same time. I had a harassing boyfriend. By that, I mean, we broke up, and, back in the day, your phone would tell you how many missed calls you had. Maybe they still do. I don't know. Mine doesn't. In one evening, he called me 124 times. What? I had my phone off. Yes. He was writing nasty emails to people about me. He was writing things to my parents about me. He was calling my work. He was showing up at my house, driving 7 miles from Mississippi to Austin, Texas. He came in and pushed me around, and he had been abusive before, so this is like not really any surprise, but I was, trying to get him out of my life, and that was like to him, like, oh no, you don't. And so that really puts you, as anyone can imagine, really puts you on edge. And when your friend's lawyer tells you, go to a detective and have them file for harassment, you're just kind of like, your body clenches up and you're like, oh my God. And you go into that fight or flight or whatever it is mode. And so I kind of began to have this anxiety about, like, even shopping at the grocery store. I would get to the end of the aisle and I'd have to like leave my basket because I would be like, oh my God, what if he's behind, the next aisle? We didn't even live in the same state. Some of it was, me making it up. And some of it was just him threatening me so much, so often, that caused those things to really become more aggressive. As to the fall, I was referring to part of the fashion stuff before or after the OCD and the self-harm. I went back to Oklahoma, and in the fall of 2007, I got my dream job. So this is after the self-harm began. And, it almost makes you cry every time because it's like so good. It's like you imagine like the job you would love to have with like the money to match it in like a place you really would love to live. And it's like all, glittery and wonderful. And so I get the job, right? I get the job and I get the title I want and I get to do what I want. And I'm going to get an assistant for myself and everything. And it's going to be wonderful. And then a week later, I try to kill myself. Now, why one does that, I don't know, because it really makes no sense to me. And doctors have been asking me that for about 10 years now. I usually attempt suicide, and I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that here, but I usually attempt suicide or dangerous things when I'm acting impulsively, usually during manic states, but definitely impulsively. I don't plan them out. I won't say any more about it, but I don't plan them out. I'm just like, hey, whatever, do this. So when I got back to my parents, I was diagnosed with bipolar 1 and was put on medication and started receiving counseling. And, I think that's really what kind of saved me to begin with, at least.
Hell of a journey. Holy cow. Bipolar 1. What exactly does that mean for our listeners who may or may not know? What is that? Bipolar 1, there's two forms of bipolar. Bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 2, which is, I can't remember her name, beautiful, Catherine Zeta-Jones. That's the version she has. Basically, that's being depressed more of the time than having mania, which is being happier. So she's down in the dumps more, which stinks. If you are manic, you tend to be either equally manic and depressed or more manic than depressed. I am bipolar 1, meaning I tend to get really high. I don't mean by drugs. I tend to get really high. For example, I have climbed a tree in a sequin dress thinking, why the hell not? This is a good time and a good idea. We do weird things. I think we do, I don't know how to say this, but I think we do more weird things than depressed people do. I think depressed people are because I've been depressed. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have been down the dark hole and I know how that feels. And I'm not saying that's a good feeling, but mania can also be a terrible feeling just because people say, oh, you're manic or, oh, she's suffering from mania. You can be seeing, you can have delusions and hallucinations, which have happened to me before. I've heard things, I've seen things. So basically, it's a roller coaster ride. It's ups and downs. Yeah, it's basically a roller coaster ride. It's the best way to describe bipolar. And bipolar 1 is just that you're going higher rather than lower during the duration of the ride. And how does that present challenges to you? I mean, we've heard about, you didn't say directly that your bipolar 1 is a direct contributor to, when you're manic or whatever, that it's a direct correlation to suicidal thinking. So I'm not going to go there unless you do. But what kind of challenges does bipolar 1 kind of present to you on the day-to-day?
On the day-to-day, I guess sometimes I don't really know what's real. And again, that has more to do with delusions and hallucinations. Because mine, not all, I guess I should be very clear about that. Not all people who suffer from bipolar 1 have delusions or hallucinations. And that also means that they're not necessarily schizophrenic, who have hallucinations and hear things. And it's kind of a different kind of thing. But sometimes I'm not sure what's a good idea. Like, is taking my medication really helping me, or is it me who's helping me? You know, am I the one who's getting better, you know, to crap with all this medication? Like, I don't want to take it anymore. Like, it makes my voice quivery and it makes my hands shake, and, you know, it's making me gain 20 pounds and, you know, all these things. And you have to question a lot of the side effects. I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is questioning a lot of the side effects. And I have some other friends who are mentally ill in different ways, and we can talk about specific medications, or we could just talk in general about, you know, what's bothering us, which I think is a great resource, to have. Hint, hint, support group.
Wink, wink.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just like, is it real? Should I take it? Should I do it? And sometimes it's a hard decision to realize, you know, you need this medicine. I had a very close person in my life recently. It was a family member, trying to argue with me, but just argue with me that I needed to get off some of my medication. And I kind of wanted to say to this person, like, you are not my doctor. You know, you're not the one prescribing the medication. You haven't gone to school for this. And I am getting a second opinion, you know, just in case. But I felt a little, I didn't really know what to do in that situation, because, again, this person is family, and, you know, I just kind of explained to the person, you know, how I felt about when someone says stuff like that. So, because not everybody understands, you know. There's, you know, 1 in 4 of us or whatever, and that seems like a lot of people, but that's 3 out of 4 who don't get it.
Right.
No, they don't.
And I wonder how many of those people don't even have a diagnosis, or don't even understand, or might have a misdiagnosis too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't know bipolar. I didn't even know what bipolar was until I was diagnosed with it. You know, people, and that's one of my pet peeves, is when people throw around mental illness terms, you know, like it's a pizza pie crust. It's like, right. No, you know, it's you using bipolar to describe the weather offends me as much as me calling you, you know, by your religion or something. That's offensive.
I almost caught myself today, actually. I was talking to my wife on the phone. She's out of the country, and talking about the weather, and I almost said it, and she doesn't have bipolar. She's got other things, and I've got my depression. And I was like, and I caught myself, and I was like, don't feed into that, you know? Like, even in those moments, like, it's kind of interesting and fun and funny, I guess, to see even where my head has gone, because there's not as, I mean, I don't think people understand depression, just speaking from my own experience, but I know people don't understand it, and they say that they are, and I don't think they quite understand that, and then it drives me up the wall when people say, like, I'm so OCD, or, oh, that's, you know, oh, he's so bipolar, or, oh, it's a schizophrenic moment. I'm like, what? No, none of those things. And the fact that
I'm only laughing because it's so ridiculous. It makes me so mad.
It is. And just even taking it a step further, talking about sort of one of my topics that I really feel strongly about is suicide and prevention. And then you hear things about, like, in gym class, they're doing suicide sprints, and there's like a suicide buffalo sauce. Like, that could be anywhere near someone being in emotional pain. I mean, language is so important.
Yeah.
So just kind of tapping into your thought process. And I'm really glad that you explained and stood up for yourself. I mean, it's not always our job to educate, although I think in this climate and in, you know, in how so many people are still afraid, I personally feel like it's my responsibility. I don't always want to talk about it, but So, I mean, I think that's person to person, but technically it's not necessarily our job, although I do kind of feel tasked to that, right? But I don't know. I'm glad because that person is not your doctor. And if you didn't have years of experience behind you and also being vocal, that could have been some very harmful advice if you decided to take that. And medicine's a funny thing. I'm on one med, Wellbutrin, very middle dose, like 300 milligrams. It's usually like 150, bumps up to 3, and 450 is kind of the highest they'll do. And at one point I wanted to try 450 just to kind of see if it gave me an extra boost. And I've only been on this for almost a year. First time I've ever taken medicine, for good reason, of course. And I felt the closest to probably what manic could feel like without necessarily actually feeling that way, I guess. So, I mean, I was just very, like, my body was moving a lot and I was shaking a lot and I was a lot of energy, didn't eat a lot. And it was a really strange feeling. And so we went back down to 300, and it's a really good level for me. So I think it's really important for people to hear about the management of levels and different things like that too, because it sounds to me like your medicine plays a big role in your life. And one thing I do want to say that caught my mind, you said my voice quivers, and you were talking about a side effect as it was a side effect. And something that, because I'm a professional voiceover actor, I've done that for years, although this has been a light year, but other years have been good. And I was thinking, you have such a great, like, character voice, like, in a good way, like, not like, just a really good voice. Like, I think I might buy a car from you or something, or here, you want a cartoon. So sometimes the things, I mean, just pondering real quick, and then I want to really get back to you. But sometimes the things that we think are detriments, sometimes are really big gifts. There's a gentleman in a class that I'm taking, a counseling class for personal development reasons, and he self-identifies, and he's gotten top surgery as a transgender male, female to male. And so we were talking about kind of class and equity and women having a space in the room and men kind of over-occupying at times. And he was sharing at the very end about his personal experience on being both sides of that coin. And I was like, what a huge gift to give to everybody. Something that he may have seen as a detriment in his own life at one point, and certainly people do see that, unfortunately, as a detriment. But I was like, what a huge gift to be able to speak to both sides of that and to really offer us a point of view into both worlds. So just wanted to kind of throw that on top of, that voice quiver is really interesting to me and kind of fun. But that's your feeling, so I don't want to co-opt or
I leave messages for people, and I'm like, I'm not crying. I'm like, it's just, my quivering voice. And it's only happened for I don't know, a few months now, so it must be something that we've changed recently. Yeah. I'm like a little sheep.
That leads me to jump further in our interview. I ask you what your spirit animal is, so we'll hold on to that for a minute. Mary had a little lamb. Elaina had a little lamb. So, I on this podcast, on this show, I like to really dig into some difficult times and kind of pull things out. And you really kind of laid it on the table already, and which is really wonderful because
I talk a lot.
It's fine. It's great. It makes my life easier, and it's. I don't think people are coming to the show for me. I think they're coming for the guests that we have on. So good. Thanks for talking a lot. But I'm just kind of curious about your management of bipolar 1, and then maybe your management of that on top of the other mental illnesses that you live with. What does that look like, and what does that look like? We'll stay there.
Well, OCD, I would say OCD for me, OCD falls under the category in the big manual Bible of diagnostic criteria under OCD falls under anxiety disorders, I think, as long as that's not changed. Mm-hmm. And so, it makes sense to me that, why not? That I would get OCD as well. And because I take mood stabilizers and, basically I take a lot of mood stabilizers, and I think that's what helps with most of my symptoms. I think I take one antipsychotic and one, they just started me on an antidepressant. but that's kind of scary. People listening out there, if you don't know and your doctor tries to introduce you, even if there's a possibility that you have bipolar of either kind, and they try to introduce you to a antidepressant, that can be a cause for mania. It can, spur up a manic episode, which is what I kind of believe may have led to my first attempt, because I was only on an antidepressant. And so, I was just on like a relaxer and an antidepressant. And so there was nothing to stabilize my mood or anything like that. But as for back to your question, because I take medicine for anxiety, it makes my OCD a lot more manageable to control. The only time when I see it really flare up is when I'm extremely stressed out. And what that looks like to me, okay, let's just go back. What it used to look like for me were very common symptoms, like washing my hands 25 to 30 times a day. This is actually the reason I had to leave graduate school, because I was so anxious there that I wasn't functioning right. I was getting to class late. I couldn't do my homework because I was checking everything and lining things up and cleaning and, doing all those things. So I start lining things up. Then everything in the fridge has to face forward. I still do that kind of today just because I like to. It makes me feel safe. As silly as that sounds. In the shower, everything faces a certain direction. I don't let anybody use my towels. Like, no one can use my towels at all, because there's germs on them. I have a germ phobia. It's part of my OCD. Mm-hmm. Also, part of my OCD is a number thing. Started out with 2s. Everything had to be followed by the number 2 or a multiple of 2. Then it changed to 5. So say I'm watching TV. I can watch something that ends in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. You get it. Like, has to end in a 5, either a 0 or a 5. And my family, I don't know if they're doing this for the better or the worse, but they kind of go along with it, with the whole thing. And I think it's because I wrote an essay once and I let my dad read it, and it made him cry because it made him feel so sad that I felt that way. But one time he changed the channel to 28, like the number, the volume, and I had to go upstairs and wash my hands like 35 times. And, he's just like, I had no idea it was such a big deal. I told you guys, this is how it is. Anxiety, I'm really working on that right now in therapy. That's kind of our goal right now. I've got a new therapist. I've seen her 4 times. I like her. She wanted to know what I wanted out of therapy. And I think this is important for everyone to tell their therapist what they want to begin with. Because if you don't ask for something, you're not going to get it. If you want to go in there and have someone listen to you for 45 minutes, that's what you're going to get. If you want someone to go in there and tell you what to do, that's what they're going to do. I like creative problem solver. I like to go in there with a problem I need to solve, and for her and myself to come up with kind of a plan. How am I going to get to where I need to go? And so, we come up with the little tasks and ideas, and I have a problem with Walmart. And so, she challenges me to go. I'm so silly when I say it out loud, to go into Walmart. Now, first it was like, just go to the front and go to the jewelry section. And I'm like, okay, I will. And then it was just go a little further back, get you some active wear. I'm like, okay.
Is that how your therapist talks? Just is that your voice for everybody, by the way?
This is North Carolina. This is North Kakalaki. That's how they all talk. You should hear my sister-in-law. When I first heard her, I was like, oh my God, James, you've got to be kidding me. Love you, Amanda. Love you. So then she was like, okay, go all the way to the back of the store. Now, I have not yet managed to the back of the store. That, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. That, I think, I'm not ready for that. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's too big. It's too big. But I'm doing the baby steps. And I just moved here in June. So trying to make friends through meetup groups, meetup.com, meetup groups. And I went to one yesterday where I knew no one. So, of course, that was a lot of anxiety for me. But I just pushed through it and, smiled and went along with the group. And it was fine and fun. And I had a good time. So, yeah, I guess you just gotta put yourself out there, I guess is what I'm saying. And with the bipolar being a part of it, you just have to accept that. The other things you can work on, I believe, and bipolar you can still work on, but it's more a beast of its own. You can't control when you're going to be depressed. You can't control when you're going to be sitting on a 3-story roof. You can't really control those things. So you just kind of control what you can.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I mean, because I think a lot of the young people that I get to speak in front of or even adults who are getting diagnosed for the first time or they're just dipping their toes in the water, like there's still this hope that like maybe it'll go away. And like, no, it's not going to go away. But like you put yourself out there. You take risks by going to therapy and then kind of taking on the homework that's given if that's the case. And anxiety, dipping your toes. Like I'm going to go to meetup. It's going to be weird. I wish I
had a friend with me.
Hey, but your experience is your experience, like that's how you felt. And that's valid. And I think it's really important
it was good. I made new friends. Yeah.
Good. And I'm really glad that you talked about more than just medicine and more than just therapy. I mean, what do they say? Medicine is 50% more effective with talk therapy. But you're talking about going out. You're talking about kind of testing your limits. You're talking about, I don't know if Walmart is good for anyone's mental health.
Oh, Lord, no.
But good on you. Like, I mean, I was there a couple of weeks ago just because we had, like, I don't really love the concept in the store and the ethos for the most part, but
yeah,
I had some children to shop for back to school, and I was like, it's going to be like, I want to say like 25% if I go there and just buy in bulk. So I kind of felt guilty, but I also felt good. But it was like exhausting after leaving. I was like, holy cow. So really weird. Anyway. But I'm really glad that and I'm thankful that you're being so open and vulnerable and honest. So I think this is a good moment to switch gears, actually, because we talk about deep stuff, and you were I didn't have to pull out of the difficult moments from you, and you were very forthcoming on, the stuff that we talked about. And so I want people to see a different side of you, and you've been great. But I don't want people any of our guests to say, well, it's just the guy from foster care or the girl with bipolar or the suicide guy. Like, we have so many hats and so many different sides of us. So this is the quick fire round. And basically it's just a fun, silly little time that we get to have where people get to see a different side of you. And so there's no right or wrong answers. There's just whatever, It's like our Tonight Show moment or our Conan moment or whatever. So are you cool with that?
Anxiety, here we go.
Oh. Hey, anxiety, guess what? I'm going to talk to you for a minute. I'm your friend too. So, I'm here for you, and I'm here for Elaina. So here we go. Hope that wasn't like condescending or weird, but it came from a good place. So, Elaina, what's your favorite word?
Hope. The name of my dog, because I got her because I tried to kill myself. So she was my hope.
That is so lovely. So,
that's the reason. I just meant there was a reason behind it. I mean, hope's a great word, and hope's a great word for all of us, but that's why it's especially, hope, nice for me.
And hope is something that we got to cultivate, and hope is something that keeps all of us going on the day to day. And Yeah. Cool beans.
Yeah.
I love it. So what's your least favorite word then?
Mucus.
That's the first on this show. That is a weird word, by the way. What do you not like the sound, or is it like you have a mucus buildup for the last week, or I don't know?
No, it sounds nasty in that commercial with the little green guys. And
oh yeah, that is. Oh,
yeah,
that's awkward.
they're nasty too. They're nasty, and they try to sit with you on the plane, and they try to go to bed with you. They're nasty.
That makes sense
critters.
with your germ stuff too. That makes a ton of sense.
Oh yeah.
So this might be a silly question, and it's not part of the quickfire round, but somebody is the voice of that thing, right? So if somebody asked you to be the voice of that thing, would you have to turn them down, knowing that that's what it was? Kind of a awkward existential question.
Nope, I would not turn them down.
Okay, fair enough.
I would just be a female
curious.
mucus down. I'd be a female mucus. I'd be Mrs. Mucus.
Yeah, you have so much money because those commercials have been airing for years. You'd be able to eradicate mucus once and for all. I think maybe, probably not.
Sure.
So, Elaina, if somebody decided to make a movie of your life, the Elaina J. Martin story, who would play the title role?
Oof, good one. Once again, I can see her face. Pretty girl from Girl Interrupted, Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
Cool. She's a real talent. So this would be a studio film. This would be a Fox Searchlight movie.
Definitely. I like indie everything. So
yeah.
I like indie music, and I like indie clothes, and that's kind of my flavor. So
I like it. I dig it, and I like Winona Ryder too.
Yeah. Well, I don't like shoplifting or whatever. I don't support shoplifting. Wasn't she the one who shoplifted?
Well, yeah. I get that. That was years ago.
That may be indie, taking a few things.
Could be. Yeah. We don't really know.
But I don't
want
that to be in my life.
No.
But yeah, she's cute and petite. And she's got my coloring, so yeah, her.
Yeah, cool. Winona Ryder. Dig it. So, Elaina, who or what is your spirit animal?
A hedgehog.
Ooh. Give me a little reasoning behind that. It's interesting. Big Sonic fan? No.
I don't even play video. I think this is an actual truth. I don't think I have ever played a video game. Not one. Not even Pac-Man. Not even Atari, whatever that was.
Wow.
Whatever, Mario, whatever.
And you're doing
I had a
fine?
brother. I have a brother, but yeah, it's up to him to do that stuff.
Right on.
A hedgehog because it's cute, but don't they still have quills? Aren't they the one with quills?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I was making sure it wasn't like an armadillo or something. Make sure I was thinking of the right spirit animal. Yeah, because it's they're spiky on the outside, but their little bellies are so soft and they're just warm on the inside. That's like me, right? I'm spiky on the outside and
all right.
soft and warm on the inside.
I have no knowledge of this, everyone. I have never seen Elaina in person before taking a sideways turn, but that's cool. Good for you. No, I'm kidding.
You go with your spikes.
It's funny. I love the hedgehog thing. I think they're adorable, and whatever answer you gave would have been the right answer, so it doesn't really matter. Not your answer doesn't matter. What I think doesn't matter.
Oh, well, thank you.
Right on. So, Elaina, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you as you enter or as you get kicked out?
I would like for him to say, "You are beautiful." Because when my great-grandma, who was 98, died, this is so, sweet and sad. She, put her hand up to my face, and she just said, "You are so beautiful, Elaina." And it was, the most touching moment I can ever think of. And it was I don't want to say it was like God speaking to me, but it's like that moment, it's like if that moment could ever happen again, you know, that would never be with a person. Like no guy could ever say it like that. This is my great grandma we're talking about. You know, like, yeah, God could say that. It would be more like, you know, inside out, you know, kind of thing. It wouldn't just be like, hey girl, look at it.
Hey girl, it's God. No, as if that would be the voice.
Maybe,
what happened?
Maybe in some people's hood that is the voice. We shouldn't.
I guess so.
We shouldn't, you know, guess.
Indeed, you're right. Well, that's lovely and a lovely answer. And your grandma sounds incredible. Sounds incredibly sweet. Great grandmother. So.
Great grandmother. Yeah.
So that's the end of our quick fire round. You scored. There's no scores. It went really well. So, Elaina, what do you think the next, if you have any idea, maybe the next 6 months to a year looks like for you professionally, personally, like whatever you feel comfortable sharing?
I am going to dig out of stone, dirt, tree limbs, wherever I find them, concrete, a publisher or agent who will publish my book. Because I'm tired of sitting on this darn thing. It is just taking up too much space in my laptop, on my hard drive, and in my house, and I want it out. No, I really do. You know, I say it a million times. I want some girl in Iowa to, like, read it and be like, oh, my God, like, there's someone else out there who, like, feels the way I feel. Because when I read Manic by Terry Chaney, or when I read Obsessed, and I can't think of Maria Hornbacher, and when I saw Girl Interrupted, but just when I saw and read some of these books and movies, I just thought, oh my gosh, you know, they get me. Like, I'm not the only one. Like, I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. You know, there's other people who are crazy too. You know, I'm not the craziest. There are others of us. And I just want someone, you know, in some hick town nowhere who doesn't allow these books or doesn't have resources to these books, you know, just to know that she's not the only one. That's the reasoning behind my book, why I wanted to write it. Not for fame and fortune. It was never going to be famous or fortunate, but to help, just literally, you know, people say that, but I really mean it, to help someone out there. But also, I want to get started on a new project. I don't know what that is yet. Some sort of writing project. I'm thinking it's going to be nonfiction. I mean, I think it's going to be fiction, which I've never wrote.
Interesting.
I think it might even be fashion oriented, since I have so much experience in that. But it's not going to be. It's not going to be The Devil Wears Prada. It's going to be kind of. I have ideas. I already have, you know, some things working up there. So I might just take a little trial and error at that, maybe take some classes in fiction and see how that goes. Continue blogging, of course. Actually, September will be my 4th year at Psych Central.
Wow.
I cannot believe I found enough information to blog for 4 years. You know, continuously every week, at least twice a week. So, but if anyone wants to get a hold of me, probably the easiest and best way is just through email, if that's good enough to give out. Is that okay?
Sure, please.
It is Elaina, ELAINA, day, blog, BLOG, @gmail.com. Yeah, I always check it. Comes to my phone, comes to my computer. I'm not one of those people who'll answer answer it at dinner, though. So if you try to reach me at dinner time, forget it. I don't have my phone on the table. I think that's rude. So if you're dining with me ever, put it away. All right, Josh?
Gotcha.
Put it away.
Fair enough. I'll remember that. It's going to happen. Well, awesome. I love what the next, bit of time for you looks like, and pulling for you on that lit agent, and excited to hear about the new stuff that is kind of rattling around up there. And you already provided us a way to get in touch, so that's cool. So I think all that's left to say is just a big, giant thank you for coming on and being so honest and open and vulnerable. It was a real honor and a real treat to get a chance to spend some time with you.
Well, thank you. And I loved your first book. And I haven't really gotten into the second one yet, so I can't tell you 100% if I love it. I love my story. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm sure it's excellent. But the first one was fantastic. I did a review of it, so I know it was fantastic.
You did.
And
that's right. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's how we met. And I'm sure this will be just as great. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the I'm Possible Project show with Joshua Rivedal and guest Elaina J. Martin. I love sharing stories and how to turn impossible into I'm possible. If you want more inspirational stories, our second and third books are in pre-order right now. Changing Minds, Breaking Stigma, Achieving the Impossible, as well as Lemonade Stand. Both contain powerful stories of overcoming tremendous odds. When life gives you lemons, squeeze, add sugar, and pick up a copy of The I'm Possible Project. www.IamPossibleProject.com/pre-order. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're more than a community. You're part of the I'm Possible family. Until next time, sending you lots of love.